Well, welcome back to the program. Let's go to the Australian political story which has dominated the headlines this week. The controversy over Jacinta Nampijinpa Price's migrant comments, which led to her being sensationally sacked from the shadow cabinet. Anthony Albanese has taken a swipe at the coalition today. Have a listen.
What I'm concentrating on is protecting and advancing the interests of Australians. I'm interested in fighting for them. The coalition are interested in fighting each other, whether it be Liberals fighting Liberals, Nationals fighting Nationals, or Liberals fighting Nationals, or the LNP. I'm not sure who they're fighting each other.
I'm joined by former Queensland Premier Campbell Newman. Campbell, thanks for coming in tonight. First off, I just want to get your take on this whole saga. I mean, it feels like it's been going for months. It's a bit over a week. What have you made of it?
Well, look, firstly, the PM's, as they say in sport, he's playing the advantage, he's on message.
Yeah.
And what they're trying to do, of course, is say that the Liberal Party is divided, and there is that sense of division. But it's also about him trying to continue to paint the Liberal Party as being anti-immigrant, anti-Indian in this particular case. The trouble is the way this has been handled is that weak Liberals, and I throw the Leader of the Opposition into that category, actually adopt the Labor Party's line. They actually get scared by the Labor Party's line. What they should have done here is push back. Price was not having a go at Indians who've come to Australia. She was merely making a comment about the crass and quite brutal calculation that the Labor Party do. When I was Lord Mayor of Brisbane and indeed Premier, I had fantastic support from the Indian community in this city. I was Honorary Indian of the Year, I think, 3 years running.
Well, that's just
now,
brilliant,
and so what I'm saying is that the Indian community will vote for Liberals, and they should be voting for Liberals because the Liberals actually are much more aligned, if they follow the principles of the party, to the values of people who've come from the Indian subcontinent. They're industrious, they want to run their own businesses, they want to get ahead, they're about family, they want to keep what they've earned, and I'm sure like hardworking Australians, they don't want to pay high taxes. So why shouldn't they vote Liberal? But what Susan Lee's done is actually capitulated to the Labor Party line. And, I mean, the only criticism I'd have of Price, and it's only a small one, is that what she did say was sort of clumsy. She did hand the issue.
She admitted it was clumsy.
Yeah, and she has, and good on her. But, now she'll be, a free agent. She'll speak her mind. And I'm afraid it looks really bad for the Leader of the Opposition.
Well, that's what I want to ask you next. Where do you think this goes for Susan Lee, and how does this affect her leadership?
Well,
she would probably believe this is a show of strength. Is it going to play out that way?
No, it's not. It's not. I think it plays out really, really badly. We've seen what the Prime Minister has said. He's playing the advantage. That's the way it looks. That's the way it looks. And leadership is actually about trying to corral people, bring them together, not do what Susan Lee's done, which is to sort of reward friends and marginalise opponents in the leadership ballot.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I have great respect for Peter Credlin, who appears on this network and also, writes for The Australian. She, in her piece in The Australian today, calls it right down the line. She is absolutely correct in her assessment. It hasn't been about leadership or a demonstration of leadership. It's actually been a decision, I think, that ultimately will be terminal for Susan Lee. Yeah,
you don't panic, and you certainly, as you pointed out, you don't let your political opponents set the agenda.
Yeah, look, this is the thing.
You then dance to, and that's what's happening.
It is exactly that. What they're allowing is for the Labor Party to say that the Liberal Party are racists.
Yeah.
Just think about that for a second. An Aboriginal woman of strength and character is being labelled essentially as being a racist against Indians who've come to this country. I mean, give us a break.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's played out terribly. Yeah. Hopefully the opposition can get on with holding the government to account, though I'm not holding my breath. Speaking of the government, Anthony Albanese is yet to secure a face-to-face meeting with Donald Trump. But the president had this to say when asked about a phone call they had just last week. Have a listen to this.
Mr. President, how was your call with the Australian Prime Minister? How was your call with the Australian Prime Minister last week? Was it a good call?
And then Anthony Albanese was asked about those comments from Donald Trump. Have a listen.
What do you make of this, and do you think he's a good man?
Well, I do. I've had respectful relations with President Trump. We have. had 4 discussions that have been really warm. The last one was just over a week ago. I look forward to continuing to engage with the United States.
So there you go. Donald Trump says Anthony Albanese is a good man, but is he good enough to get a meeting, Campbell? That's the question we all want answered.
Well, he needs a meeting, doesn't he?
He does.
But it's like, I guess, to be sort of fair about it, at least he's not getting the treatment other world leaders have got.
Well, maybe that's why there hasn't been a meeting, because he's afraid he'll get that treatment.
Well, you know, plenty of people have commented like that, James.
Yeah.
So, you know, but look, I hope he does get a meeting for the sake of this country. You know, and look, I have to reflect that this government has done so much to antagonise the administration, Washington, whether it be about Israel, recognition of Palestine, the whole issue about defence spending, where they've been dragged kicking and screaming into, you know, the brutal reality of 2025 in the Indo-Pacific, that Australia has to step up to the plate. And either we are aligned to the United States of America spending more money, or, James, we spend lots more money ourselves and have a policy of self-reliance, which you know, well, neither thing is being espoused by the government, is it?
Well, you know, prior to this week, Anthony Albanese had 3 very constructive phone calls. Every time they mention these phone calls, they say very constructive phone calls. We still don't know where AUKUS is at. We've still got no tariff relief. So I'm not sure what's being constructive about them, but I suppose it's a good thing there was a 4th phone call. So hopefully the 5th interaction will be a face-to-face meeting.
And look, in the meantime, with this Pacific Islands Forum, I mean, you know, 2 comments. The Chinese are crawling all over the Solomon Islands. You know,
and Vanuatu.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing, of course, there's the usual ritual beat up on Australia about, you know, our LNG projects, which goes unanswered. I mean, you know, if I was the Prime Minister of Australia at a Pacific Islands Forum, the moment that stuff was rolled out, I'd say, well, look, see your brothers over here, your Melanesian brothers in PNG. They seem to be doing very well with massive LNG export projects to take their country forward to prosperity for all their people. Well, that's Australia's right as well.
Absolutely.
So look, you want money from Australia, you want our support. Well, that's how we fund the great services, and that's how we fund our international relations program. So rack off.
You're making far too much sense.
Yeah, well, I wish they'd have the strength to push back publicly instead of, you know, like, again, PNG has massive LNG projects that they have implemented and probably still to implement.
Right, before we go, I want to ask you about the government's special envoy into combating not anti-Semitism, Islamophobia. Yeah. He's handed down his report today. Here's some of what was said in that press conference.
Since October 7th, 2023, Islamophobic incidences have skyrocketed. The Islamophobia Register has recorded a 150% increase in verified in-person Islamophobic incidents by November 2024. Online, these instances skyrocketed to 100 to 250% compared to any other period before that. Despite these reports, Islamophobia remains underreported.
So he's recommended a whole lot of action points to combat Islamophobia. But what I found interesting, Campbell, was that he also wants an inquiry into the cause of anti-Palestinian attitudes in this country. I can't imagine why there might be some anti-Palestinian attitudes in Australia. Any ideas? Can you help me out?
Well, I'm sick of Palestinian supporters from, I'm afraid, certain ethnic communities protesting week after week after week on the streets of our cities, and useful idiots coming alongside with them. And look, what we need is to actually say we're going to be a vibrant multicultural country, but we're calling on people to adopt our values and the principles by which we must all live together. And so special envoys for this and special envoys for that create actually division. And that's what really makes me annoyed about it. We have seen a huge sort of tide of negativity and quite outrageous things happening to the Jewish community in this country. They are not of the state of Israel. They're Jewish Australians, and that's where the issue has been at this current time. And you know, the Islamic community, and again, I had very good relationships with the Muslim communities here in Queensland, but I would say to more broadly across Australia, well, we do not have rabbis that I've noticed preaching hate and division and the destruction of a particular state. I haven't heard any rabbis preaching for the destruction of one of the Muslim nations in the Middle East. So, I mean, there is a real issue with people in those sort of positions preaching hate and division, and perhaps there's a need for them to have a good hard look at themselves and actually quell those more radical elements of their community. But look, at the end of the day, I just want people to actually get on board Team Australia and leave all that rubbish behind. I just wish that could happen.
Absolutely. I think every single person watching this program would 100% agree with that. We just all want to be Australians and get on with building the greatest country on earth.
I don't want to see that Palestinian flag, and I don't think we should need to see the Israeli flag. I want to see the Australian flag flown proudly as it flies from my own home.
100%. Campbell Newman, thanks for joining me tonight. It's always great to catch up with you.